Do you recognize this triangle? This is a samosa or sambusa in Arabic, and usually these are filled with delicious savory fillings. But today we're going to do something different. We're going to make sweet samosas. My grandma sometimes used to make these with nut or fruit fillings. And today we're going to make some cream-based fillings so you have a nice crispy dessert with a very soft cream. These are going to be fantastic. We're going to make some non-traditional flavors today. The first one is going to be chocolate. Then we've got pistachio with orange and a hint of cardamom. And then I saw some nice strawberries in the supermarket, so we're going to do a strawberries and cream as well. First thing we'll do is we'll prep a pastry cream, and then I'll show you how to stuff the samosas with the cream fillings. So we're going to start the creme pat by cracking a couple of eggs. We're going to separate out the whites because we really only want the yolks for this. Next, we're going to add some sugar and we're going to mix it together with the eggs. This is 30 grams, but we're only going to add half of it right now. And then we just whisk it together with the eggs, basically try and get it really creamy. So now after whisking for about 30 seconds, I've got this pale looking yolk mixture. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add some cornstarch to it. So I'm just going to add the 20 grams of cornstarch to it. What this will do is it will thicken and stabilize the mixture as it cooks. So that way, once we've cooked it, it's not going to come apart and it's going to stay nice and creamy. Now we've got a thicker mixture here. So that's going to be good because we're going to add some hot milk to it and temper it in a short while. So we'll leave this here, and then what we'll do is we'll head over to the stove and we're going to heat up some milk. I'm going to place a small saucepan on medium heat. And then I'm going to add 250 milliliters of regular whole milk. I'm also going to add the rest of the 15 grams of sugar. And then just for the strawberries and cream one, I'm going to add some vanilla flavoring. So this is about 1 teaspoon of vanilla paste, or you can use vanilla extract as well. And now that that's in there, I'm just going to leave it to heat up. It should take a few minutes. We don't want to bring it to a boil. We just want to get it to just below a boil so it's nice and hot. And then what we'll do is we'll take it back to the eggs and then we'll use it to temper them. So this has just started steaming, so I think it's just about almost boiling. So this milk is obviously hot and we don't want to cook the egg yolks by adding it all to them at once. Otherwise it's just going to curdle and not be nice. So I've got to add a little bit, mix it in, then keep adding the rest of it slowly while we mix. And that way we won't cook the egg yolks and we'll get all of this incorporated in. That's the egg yolk mixture. Now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer it back into the pot and we're going to turn the heat to medium. So it's on medium heat, and now we're going to continuously whisk it until it heats up and we start seeing bubbles. It's going to thicken very soon as well. And now that it's thickened, we're just going to let it cook until it starts bubbling. Just keep careful that you continuously whisk it until you take it out of the pot. Otherwise it can scald and you can get some brown bits, but this should be done. Now I'll keep that off the heat, and then we're going to add the last ingredient, which is 40 grams of butter. And then keep whisking it. Dissolve those. I think all the butter has dissolved. See here, it's nice and thick, but it's not too thick. Stable enough to be stuffed into something. And because it's got cornstarch, when we cook it later on, it's not going to dissolve. It's going to stay creamy, custardy like it is. So now that that's cooked, we're going to pass it through a strainer. And what that will do is catch any lumps if there's any cornstarch or egg yolk that have curdled. Pass it through, we'll get a really smooth pastry cream. And now we're certain that this is a smooth cream with no lumps. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten it out a bit, and then we're going to chill this in the fridge so it's cold when we come to stuff the sambusa. Now I'm just going to cover it with some plastic wrap, put it right onto the surface of the cream, and that way it won't form a skin. Now that is ready to go in the fridge and chill out for a bit. So these are the strawberries we're going to use in the strawberry and cream filling. They smell fantastic. I'm going to give them a quick wash, but we'll chop them up and macerate them, and then they're going to go into the cream. So I've washed 250 grams of strawberries. Now we're going to remove the green tops. And now all that's left to do is just dice them. We need them really small so that they go into the filling and then they can fit inside the samosas. So let's cut them really tiny. Now to macerate them, I'm just going to add 50 grams of sugar and then give it a good mix. That sugar is going to draw out the liquid from the strawberries. It's going to pull out more strawberry flavor. And then, yeah, it's going to soften them as well. And they're going to shrink a little bit more. They're going to be really nice and soft when this is done. And now that it's all mixed, just leave it for about 20 minutes to half an hour so that the sugar can pull the liquid out of the strawberries and develop some delicious strawberry liquid. That looks fantastic. Can't wait to try it later. Hello, it's Obi, and I've got some news. Sofritna, the first ever Middle East ebook, is finally out. Salma and I designed it from the ground up to be the perfect companion for cooking and hosting the most delicious Middle Eastern meals. Right now it is Ramadan, which is the busiest month for hosting friends and family. So we've curated a collection of tasty everyday dishes and Ramadan specialties, as well as pre-designed menus that take the stress out of planning your next dinner party. If you want to get your hands on this book and a bunch of unreleased recipes, or while supporting the channel, click the link in the description. Now back to the recipe. Now for the pistachio one, we've got to the same stage as before. I'm going to add the butter, and then I'm also going to add some pistachio paste in as well, and then mix those two together. And then about 1/8 teaspoon of ground cardamom. So let me just mix that all together to get it incorporated. So you can see that pistachio's dissolving in. And it's taking on a very nice color. It's almost there. There we go. I think we're pretty much done. So we use about 75 grams of pistachio butter in this. Each brand is different. Sometimes they're sweeter, sometimes they have more flavor. So you have to adjust it to your liking. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to pass it through the sieve and we're going to get that all nice and smooth. And now for the last ingredient, we're going to zest half of this orange. That's going to give this a nice brightness. Now we just mix that in. Oh, it smells so ridiculously good. And there you have it, a wonderful pistachio pastry cream. I'm going to cover this up and then I'm going to put it in the fridge to chill. So the chocolate one we're going to do slightly differently because we're going to add some cocoa powder. We'll start off with the same 2 eggs and then half of the sugar like before. And then we just whisk it together until the egg yolks go fluffy and pale. Now that the egg yolks are fluffy, we're going to add in the cornstarch and we're also going to add cocoa powder. Give those two a good whisk. And so this is what it ends up looking like. It's a bit stiff because there's a lot of powder in there. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the milk that we would be heating up just to thin it out a little. And then we'll go back to heating up the rest of the milk. Cool, that is nice and thinned out now. And so we're ready to move on to heating the milk. So just like before, we add the milk and then we add the sugar and we're going to let those heat up until they come just before a boil. All right, so that milk has heated up, so I'm going to take it off the heat and I'm going to start to incorporate it into the egg yolks. Cool, that's all been incorporated. Now let's bring that back to the pot. And now that it's all mixed, we just start whisking it together until it thickens up again. All right, there we go. It has thickened up, nice and thick like this. So I'll just leave it to just come to a quick boil and we're done. Now it's time to incorporate the butter. Now we'll just add in those same 40 grams of butter. I'm going to stir those to incorporate them. We're also going to add in 75 grams of milk chocolate as well. That's going to give us a nice chocolatey flavor. The residual heat from the pot should melt both the butter and the milk chocolate. We should incorporate pretty easily into the mixture. Really can't wait to try this one. That's our chocolate pastry cream all done. Fantastic texture on this. Look at it. All right, let's get this covered and put it in the fridge. It's about an hour later and those strawberries have really macerated. There's a lot of delicious strawberry syrup in there and the pieces are really, really soft. Now we're going to separate the syrup from the pieces so that we just add the pieces to the cream. Just set this strawberry syrup aside. You can use it later on to dip the sambusa into it. It's going to be a nice little treat. But yeah, keep that aside. Here's the plain cream pat after it's completely cooled. I'm just going to give it a quick whisk to get that spreadable again. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to incorporate these strawberries a bit at a time until I get some consistency that I kind of want. I think it will take most of them, but let's see. And now that the filling's ready, we want to make it easy to get this into the samosas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer these into piping bags. These are some really ugly blue piping bags I've got. They're professional ones, so they're going to look a bit weird on camera. But if you don't have piping bags, you can just use a sandwich bag instead. What you'll do is just put the filling towards one side and then snip off the corner there. But I'm going to fill the piping bags first. Just transfer that filling in to the bags. Now, just push it down to the end. And now that piping bag is filled with strawberries and vanilla pastry cream. This is going to be fantastic. Let's fill the rest of these up. But the truth is, you really don't need piping bags at all. You could just spoon the filling into the sambusa wrappers and it works perfectly fine. So I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. All right, that's the pistachio one. Left with one more, which is the chocolate. And so here are all 3 of the fillings: strawberry and cream, chocolate and pistachio. Now we can finally wrap the sambusa. In terms of the wrappers, this is the best brand you'll find. You can find them at Asian and Middle Eastern grocery stores. And they're basically like spring roll wrappers. They're pre-cut into the right size and the right shape so you can fold them easily. I'll take them out and show you how to use them. So when you open up a pack, you'll just pull them out. This is what the pastry looks like. They're thin sheets, as you can see, just stacked one on top of the other. Really nice and thin. You can almost see your fingers through them. While you're working with them, you want to keep them basically covered at all times so they don't dry out. So just keep them under a kitchen towel and set them just off of your work surface and then work with them one at a time. But before we start filling the samosa, we need to make a binder. So I've got a little bit of flour in here. It's just about a heaped teaspoon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water and mix it in to basically create a flour paste. What you're aiming for is something like this. Now it's going to look pretty identical on both sides, but if you run your fingers across them, you'll feel that one side is smoother than the other. That's the side that you want to put on the inside. You want to keep the rough side on the outside, and then they'll puff up and get all bubbly. So place the smooth side facing up. Then what you want to do is grab the far corner over here and pull it towards the near side so that the corner is touching it. And then pull it so that basically this side and this side are about the same length. That should be about right there. Straighten that line out, and then you're going to take this side and fold it once more like this. So that line becomes like that. You now have a triangle or a cone, which you can fill with your filling. Now, the gap that's down here needs to be really small because you don't want the filling to go out. You don't want oil to run here. So what you need to do is you just need to make sure that you make it really nice and tight as you're folding it. So I just cut a small bit of the bag off like that to make an opening. We'll pipe it in. So I'm going to do that while it's flat on the board so it's easy to fold after. So just open that up, put the bag in and squeeze. I think that's just about enough. And that's a filled samosa, as you can see. So now we just need to fold these other sides over it. So you just fold it like that over to the other side. Try to keep the edges and the corners really, really tight. And then fold it again, fold this extra bit over to the other side. Now we've got this little bit here. So this is where we'll put the binder. Don't need a lot of it, just a little. And then fold that over as well. And once you've done that, that's going to stay closed. It's not going to open back up. Now you might find that you've got small gaps here where batter can go in. I would say that if you're struggling to keep those gaps nice and tight, then what you can do is you can just dip them in the binder a bit, and that should help seal them up a bit so that they don't open up when you're frying them. That's a samosa, all done, all stuffed with a pistachio paste. I'm going to put that aside and let's move on to the next ones. So let's do that again. Just grab the far corner, should have a nice triangle here with equal shaped sides, pull that tight, and then hold this corner, flip it over. So that line should match up, press down, and then you've got the opening. So I'm going to try out stuffing it with a strawberry filling this time, all the way to the inside. You don't want to overstuff these though, because if you overstuff them, then it's going to be difficult to fold and close them. And also it means they're more likely to burst when they're frying. That's all filled with the strawberry filling. Then again, we just grab the triangle, fold it over this edge, trying to keep it nice and tight the whole way through. Till it gets to the other side, and then pinch that back here, and then just pull that nice and tight, and then fold it the other one as well. Let's get a bit of binder on this edge. And if you're feeling really advanced, what you could do is you could take this little bit of excess pastry and then tuck it into this gap over here. So let me try to do that here. And that gives you a little bit of a cleaner finish like that. Now, if you don't have a piping bag, you can just use a teaspoon to fill these. Get a good amount like that. I'll place it inside. Try not to touch the top piece. That in, then get down to hold it. You might need to do this about 2 times to fill it up completely. Now here's all the sambusa we made. We've got loads of chocolate, pistachio, and it's the strawberry that made the most. But the rest of them, I'm just going to put them in some bags and stick them in the freezer, and then they're going to be ready to fry whenever I want them. They can go straight from the freezer into the frying pan, but it's better if you defrost them first. Now I highly recommend you freeze the sambusa for at least 4 to 12 hours before you fry them. They'll store for months in the freezer, meaning you can make them ahead and serve a fantastic dessert with just a few minutes of effort. But that's not why you should do it. Freezing sambusa also freezes and firms up the pastry cream, which solves 2 problems you face when cooking. The first is that runny pastry cream can leak out of small gaps when you're frying, and that can get really messy, causing lots of spluttering. The second is that the hot temperature of the oil can cook the runny cream, causing it to expand or curdle. But if the pastry cream is frozen, it's not going to leak out or expand, and by the time the sambusa is cooked, it will be lusciously creamy once again. So about 10 to 15 minutes before you cook the sambusa, take them out of the freezer and dab any ice crystals or water from the surface. Let them defrost while you fill a frying pot with frying oil at least a couple of centimeters deep, so that when you drop the sambusa in, they can sink and fry. Turn the temperature to high and let the pot come up to around 200 to 210 degrees. While the oil is heating, you want to line a plate with some paper towels to drain the cooked sambusa on. You also need a slotted spoon or metal spider for taking the sambusa out of the oil, and a spoon for splashing oil over the sambusa so they puff up and go crispy. Now test the oil is hot enough with a thermometer, or grab some excess pastry and drop it in. If it instantly starts frying and gets crazy bubbly after 30 seconds, the oil is good to go. Add sambusa in small batches of 3 to 4 so the oil doesn't lose temperature. Splash them right away with hot oil and cook for about 90 seconds, flipping them over a couple of times. When they turn golden like this, pull them out with your spider, then drain them on the paper towels and let them cool for a few minutes. They should be insanely crispy and the filling should have melted back to its creamy, luscious texture. Before we plate them, let's answer the inevitable question of how to air fry or bake the sambusa. Of course the results are nowhere near as good as frying, but here's how to do it anyway. Brush both sides of the samosas with plenty of vegetable oil to thoroughly coat them. For the air fryer, I set it as hot as it can go and let it preheat. I added the sambusa and cooked them for about 4 minutes on the first side, then I brushed them with more oil, flipped them over and brushed the second side with oil as well. I let them cook for 2 more minutes, but when I opened the air fryer, you can see that they've started leaking, so I had to take them out. The colour isn't exactly golden, but they are mostly crispy, so it's a partial success. For the oven, I lined the tray with baking paper and brushed it with oil, then preheated it in the oven at the hottest temperature. After it was heated, I added the samosas and cooked them for about 6 minutes on the first side. I brushed them with oil, flipped them over and brushed them again, then I let them continue baking for 3 more minutes. As you can see, these leaked a lot more and didn't brown anywhere near as well, which I kind of expected. They were a lot less crispy, and so out of the two, I'd recommend the air fryer, though you'll be in a race against time to brown the samosas before the filling leaks. Now back to our golden sambusa. Just arrange them in a pile on a tray and garnish them with some crushed pistachios. There are very few things as satisfying as these crispy bites, and the combination of textures is going to delight everyone who tries them. Serve them warm or room temperature, and you can guarantee they'll be polished off. Let's crack some open and check them out. I've been really excited to give these a taste, so let's go in and see how they are. That's the strawberries and cream. It is so flavorful. It's just too good. So I've tried all 3 and I'm happy to report that they're all absolutely delicious and extremely decadent. If I had to choose a favorite, it would be the strawberries and cream. Make them, make your own flavor, try them out and let me know what you think, because I think you're absolutely gonna love these. And if not, more for me.